you on a journey to a man's transgression, a time where he refused to be one of God's precious possessions, learning through the fires of pain and hate, where God was teaching him how to either die or wait. For the first 19 years, everything was done out of traditions, but conditions of the heart were never the priority, and he got his Sunday's best just as the majority. Sorry, it's kind of shaky. He got baptized as a baby, confessed he was a jacked up little kid, got to have some bread and wine, and then off to his confirmation, but he was still hollow and lacked that holy spiritual transformation. And in his family, he felt like an outcast. He was such a goober that his sisters only took him out when mom and dad had to ask. And he always did stuff and felt like Cinderella, but he hardly had a chance to hang with the fellas. He did have a few friends while growing up as a man, and they walked around and acted like they were the stuff, and they didn't give a damn about what people thought and what they said, until his father's heart was failing, and it was making it hard for him to breathe instead. So at the point of his dad's ultimate demise, tears held back because his family needed someone to go and cry. And then God caused drama the same night, and that was the design. And then he thought, what do we do, God? You took him as if we committed a crime. So out of desperation, he thought that God was non-existent. And he thought to himself, what's the difference? If I'm going to be the best person I can be, it don't matter if I have the eyes to see. So he never really fit in any type of clique. So his so-called friends dropped him like a crack-covered stick. So those so-called friends, since after his pops died, his friends thought, hey, that dude just didn't quite fit. And so those so-called friends were done with him. So there he was without an umbrella when the crack hit the fan. And there was like one person out there to put out a helping hand. And she was the one who saw through all his pain and insecurities. And he just told her, I really just want you to know what you mean to me. But the sting of being alone was way too much to bear. Since he hurt the one person who sincerely cared. And he really just wanted some of that close physical contact. And he got that from another girl, any girl willing to interact. But he didn't know the impact and the cost. And it was his best friend in her that he lost. And too bad he never had the chance to kiss her. And deep down inside, he would still think of her and miss her. Now this man tried to have a spectacular life, but relationships were unevenly yoked, especially with his future wife. They committed themselves to each other alone, and they tried to make this little sandcastle their home. And they didn't care if God or anyone else condoned. So to make things even more scary, these two little lovebirds went and got married. He sacrificed his freedom to become a husband and father figure. And even though they weren't equal, he still stayed with her. Nothing like trying to pretend to be happy and content. Just trying to fix something that was already bent. And he was working with something that was so damaged anyway, but too bad he used all of this energy just to stay. And so to sum it up in a few short stanzas, he couldn't stand her. Everything was so messed up from the start. So it was no problem for her to go and break his heart. So these two different individuals decided to make a family. You know, the whole nice house, 2 kids in the yard. But who knew by doing all this, it'd be so hard. So he started doing everything out of routine. And he didn't care if she was nice or she was mean. But the love for his kids, now that can be seen. Because every time he thinks of him, he would just beam. But too bad she would do stuff just to piss him off. And too bad she could just, he wanted to tell him, now I wish you would just kick rocks and walk. It's like trying to turn a sour apple into a peach. Trying to make something that's completely bitter into something that's completely sweet. But too bad he couldn't send her in outer space because he couldn't stand to look at her face. Because he felt so disgraced. And he thought to himself, if I left, it's all be a waste. But he didn't have the heart to leave. That just gave him more chances to deceive. And if once were enough, then 3 would be better. And that just means 3 other men had a chance to go get her. And it would have been fine if she wasn't his wife. And it would have been okay if she wasn't his significant other. But what hurt the most is one of those men, he treated like a brother. And too bad it wasn't him that she chose to be her only lover. So try as he may to stay steady and true. But what happens when your partner no longer wants to dance with you? So he tried to hold on with all of his power and his strength. But it looks like his rope just played around at length. So he slipped and fell into darkness. And he tried to stay strong with everything he could harness. And his heart was alone in realizing that was the hardest. So then he was just crushed and he started to cry. Reason being, a part of his heart and soul just died. So he was there just reaching and grasping. And it was just air that he was trying to be gasped in. So there he was, just struggling to breathe. And then he came across a familiar rock to help and relieve. Rescued him from drowning and taking his own last breath, since it was his own heart that was causing his death. And while resting on his rock, he gave him a short sense of peace, but still hurting too much, he just needs to release. So he let go from his rock, and instead of the pain, and he remembered the past, and he cried like the rain. And now he would just take whatever may come along the way, for anything he get could be gone any day. So there he was, just trying to party with the rest. But then there was a girl with a song that hit him in the middle of his chest. And he would feel so excited to the point where his heart began to pound. And he thought, that must be the right one that I found. And there was something about it that he wished that he had. And he thought if he had it, it would make him glad. Just like Randall Reigns in Gone in 62 Seconds trying to catch his Eleanor, he just ended up being left alone and ignored. So that object of affection left him feeling all hurt and rejected. But there was something that got to him like a flu shot injection. It was like a hard slap in the face. She says, God has plans for everyone. Just have faith. So there he was, alone and smashed. It's like his whole world around him had burnt up and crashed. And then there was a song that got to his heart and his soul. Since all this time he was just trying to find someone to fill up that hole. And he always looked to find love in someone, and for a short while, it'd be a whole lot of fun. But in the end, he realized he was alone with none. And he realized that true love cannot come from no one. So he looked to his life to look for his joy. And he found all that through his friends, family, and boys. And what would his father think? Did he make him proud? He was waiting for an answer, but he didn't hear a sound. So he started listening to his heart and his spirit. And his father was talking, but the world was just too loud for him to hear it. Because he was just too blind to see. All the time saying, God, what can you do for me? And it was God that he ran out to turn his back on. And he never left them all through a song. So now he's inspired. Realizes the life of Jesus Christ that he desired. And all this time, he was like an in-the-closet Christian. And he just wanted to be loved. And that's all he was wishing. And God was that missing component. Since he realized his soul is not his, because God really owns him. And he always has a pleasant demeanor. And if that's a crime, he had countless misdemeanors. And he really doesn't get upset unless it wasn't the truth. And he realizes now to have true love, you need God at the roots. So I hope you all enjoy the story that's being told. And it's not a story of something that's old. But there's more that I want you to see. In the Holy Bible, it says the truth shall make you free. So the story of a man and who he should be, the whole time that man I was talking about was actually me.